If you truly want to understand a culture, there's no better way than to immerse yourself in it. Living in the country allows you to experience its customs, traditions, and daily life firsthand. After spending several years in the Middle East, I can attest to the richness and the depth that comes from becoming part of the community. You gain perspectives that go far beyond what you can read and see as a tourist. Whether it's savouring homemade meals, participating in local festivals, or simply chatting with neighbours, these experiences create a genuine connection. Please enjoy. So this is part one of a series. There's going to be a few more of these popping up very soon. What we're going to be doing today is doing a big long introduction, a kind of overall look at the food and the region. So what is the Middle East? It's a really kind of strange term in many ways. It covers like so many countries, but basically it means like Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, Yemen, Iran. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all Arab. For example, Iran and Turkey are not Arab countries. We're going to be focusing on the Arabian Peninsula, or the GCC. So we're kind of talking about Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE or Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, especially Bahrain. Nearly all of the footage you're about to see was filmed in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Now, all of these countries that we're going to be talking about are historically massive trading ports for centuries and centuries and centuries. So the influence of food is really, really diverse. Now you have to remember, Dubai, for example, 100 years ago was a small village. Saudi, before oil, was pretty much desert. There were cities there, of course, historical cities, but it's nothing like it is now. You know, it's really boomed and kind of gone crazy with population and people in the last 100 years, say, maybe less. So taking this into consideration, the food in this region is really mixed. It has kind of Indian influences, it has some African influences, and it has influence from the north of the Middle East, i.e. the Levant, like Lebanon, Syria and places like that. It's a real kind of melting pot of food, which makes it incredibly beautiful. So now we have an understanding of the actual region that we're looking at when we say Middle Eastern, or when I say Middle Eastern. What I mean is the Arabian Peninsula and those countries that I mentioned. Okay, let's look at some of the food from this beautiful, beautiful region. Rice is incredibly important to this region. Mandi rice, for example, which is popular all over the region, originated in Yemen. Then we have kabsa, or that's what they call it in Saudi, or machbush, which they call it in other parts, for example, Bahrain. These dishes are rice cooked usually with chicken, fish, and mainly lamb. Lamb is the meat of choice in the region, with lovely, beautiful, delicate spices. So if you think biryani and kind of tone it down a little bit, and a little bit more aromatic, that's what we're kind of talking about here. And by the way, biryani is also massively popular in the whole region. And then of course we have shawarma. And again, like I say, this is a melting pot, this region. Shawarma is originally from the Ottoman Empire, or modern day Turkey, but incredibly popular in the Levant, Syria, Lebanon, for example, and massively popular in the Gulf region, or the Arabian Peninsula, as we're calling it. They're everywhere. It's like your fish and chips if you're English, or your burger if you're American. Shawarma, shawarma, shawarma. There's loads and loads of different types. And let me tell you, in every street, in every town, in every city in the region, there's a shawarma place, for sure. And everyone has their own kind of favorite one. So the shawarma has evolved and is still evolving all the time. We're talking about, for example, the bread. It could be sarge bread, kubus, or pita bread. Then inside you've got your tahina or tahini, which is like a sesame paste, garlic sauce, a few fries, a little bit of kind of dill pickle or something like that. Some people put in some salad, some people never. And the choice usually is beef or chicken. I'm a chicken man myself. However you like it, they're just the most fantastic thing. Grab and go. And then what we have is something called malgum. Malgum, I think, kind of originated in Bahrain, but it's popular everywhere now. But kind of not really a Bahraini thing, because it's a shawarma, but with chapati or with like a paratha or something like that, some sort of Indian bread. It has cheese in it, it has fries in it, and some sauce. So yeah, that just shows you the kind of constant evolving of the food of the region. So by putting the shawarma meats and sauce inside a different bread, i.e. something like a chapati, we now have the malgum. And it's important to know that a lot of these countries that we're talking about have a higher population of expats or foreigners living in the country. Things like Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, Jordan, I think Bahrain as well, where, foreigners who have made that country their home and may have been there for generations now. This again is a massive indicator that the food of the region is really, really diverse. So who is the king of shawarma? Well, that just really depends on you, personal choice, do you know what I mean? So a lot of people would say it's the Lebanese. Some people would say Turkey make the best. Some people would say Syria. But like I say, pretty much in the region, you're going to be served by a Turkish, Syrian or Lebanese. I would say they're the top three, aren't they? And then we have bread. There's loads of different types of bread. The local kind of bread is known as kubus, but then there's lots of other stuff, things like tabun, there's lavash. There's just so many different types, not from the actual region, mostly from the Levant. You've also got some Iranian type breads that are in the mix as well. Things like Persian or Iranian barbari are really, really beautiful. And then from Lebanon, Syria and Palestine, we have things like manakish, which is a bread with usually different types of kind of toppings on it. It could be cheese, or it could even be minced meat, and especially za'atar, which is a beautiful mixed blend of herbs. And then, of course, we have Arabic coffee, also known as gawa. So this is very, very distinctive. Usually it has a lot of cardamom in there. Sometimes 50% cardamom pods are in that. Served with dates, sometimes with saffron or saffron. It's absolutely delicious, if you like that sort of thing. So some of the spices of choice include star anise, nutmeg, sumac, fenugreek, thyme, cloves, coriander, cardamom, cumin, cinnamon, fennel, turmeric and saffron or zafferan. That kind of gives you an idea of the absolutely beautiful aromatics that make up the food of the region. And then we have grilled meats like barbecue stuff known as mashawi. Mashawi means to grill or to barbecue. So you've got things like shish tawuk, which is a chicken kind of, pieces on a skewer, cooked in yogurt, lemon, garlic, and some lovely, beautiful warm spices. Lamb chops are absolutely to die for. There's just so much. It's a very kind of meaty environment, this region. There's also black lemon tikka, which is absolutely delicious. So that's small pieces of beef and beef fat, and that's marinated in lots of dried black lemon or lime and then grilled. Really, really delicious that stuff is. But for sure, this region is a meat heaven. And then we've got some kind of startery type things like hummus, mutable, tabbouleh, baba ganoush, falafel. Again, I've not mentioned Egypt yet. There's a big Egyptian influence in the region with people, population, and of course the food. This is why I believe that this part of the world is so fantastic for food, just because of the melting pot of all the influences over the centuries. And of course, we cannot forget seafood and fish. 3 of the big fish in the region are hamor, which is a kind of cod type of grouper. You have safi and you have sherry fish. The fish you're looking at here is safi. Blue shell crab, prawns, lobster are also available and popular. So this video is really, really short, so I'm not going to get through everything. I'm just going to kind of do a whirlwind kind of look at things. So we've got other dishes like haris, which is really popular, especially at Ramadan time. That's a kind of cracked wheat. It takes a very long time to cook, usually with some sort of minced meat or sometimes with chicken. You know, like it has some other spices in it. Absolutely delicious. Then we have things like farid, which is made with bread. It's like a kind of stew. You're going to kind of get chickpeas in there, vegetables, meat. It's kind of bread in the meat broth. Absolutely delicious. Really nice. If you're not feeling so well, farid's delicious. Saluna is a kind of type of stew, really, usually with chicken or sometimes with meat. It's really, really beautiful. Turmeric, olive oil, ginger, garlic, onions, chili, served with rice normally, but yeah, saluna is a winner. Uzi or guzi it's kind of really a kind of special events kind of thing, like weddings and stuff like that. Also really popular during Ramadan. This is full off the bone, absolutely delicious lamb with rice. I mean, you've got to try this one. Jasid is actually shark. It's like baby shark, not baby sharks, but small sharks. And it's really, really delicious. A lot of people stay away from things to do with shark, but if you get a chance to try this, go for it. And then we have sambusa, or some people would say samosa. A lot of these are just filled with cheese and things like that. But they're really exactly the same as a sambusa, but a cheese one, for example, is very popular. Shakshuka, a lot of people know this. This is eggs, and it's done in really kind of different ways. Again, I don't think it's actually from this region. It might be North African, I think. But yeah, it's basically eggs with tomatoes and onions and spices. Hundreds of ways of making it. And for breakfast, and you shouldn't miss a breakfast from this region, it's absolutely delicious. You've got things like balalit. Balalit is like a vermicelli noodle with sugar in it. It's quite sweet, and cardamom, and served with a kind of omelette on top. There's also things like full, which are kind of mashed down beans, different types of eggs, tomat or shakshuka again, served with things like dal, again showing the kind of Indian influence, and lots of freshly baked bread, like a kind of flat bread known as kubus. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. That's quite a long introduction to the region, really, isn't it? There's a lot to take in. So this is part 1. Part 2 will be coming up really soon, where I'll go a little bit more in depth with some beautiful, beautiful food. You take care. See you soon. Lots of love.